Hello again, everybody. Before we begin programming our Friends application into our member profiles, I'm going to quickly discuss the small cosmetic changes I made to the profiles to tidy things up a little bit and just to make it look a little more professional. So if we go into the profile.php page from version 1.31, you'll notice that I changed some things in the code. You'll see now that there's a style tag that holds some CSS. Now with these two CSS class definitions, we have info header and info body. That's where you see these green blocks and the white blocks. So if we look at the profile, you'll see that here and here and here. And I also made it to where if they don't have an about me section, this code and this whole white block won't show up. It'll just be the green block that says Adam's information under my photo. But since I have a little about me information there, the white block shows up with the about me information in it. So it's a little bit smarter way to program that. Let's see, I put a few more mechanisms in to display content or not. Remember, we've been checking to see if they have a picture or not. So if they have a picture, we display it. If not, we show our default picture. I use the same logic to display their YouTube channel link or not. Same logic to display the website URL or not. So if the website has no data, if they didn't put any data in for their website, it won't show in the information block. And here's the mechanism to display about me text or not. You can see how it's wrapped in that info body class. And that's that CSS I was talking about. Info body. That makes it have a white block around it. So when it does show up, it has the white block around it. That's how that works. Now the only other difference between yours and mine now is the way the name is over here and not on top of the picture anymore. The size of the picture, I changed that a little bit. And these are all simple cosmetic tweaks. And here, the last adjustment I made was I put a green box, a green div around the little form. So if we go into the code, we'll see the blab form now has a div style with the color background green. So now we're at the same exact point, and we're going to start programming in this friend system now. We're going to cover a lot of ground, and we're going to be assuming that people who are listening to this video have been listening to all the videos from the beginning for the web Intersect system. Now I decided to make the Friends application first rather than the profile commenting application because I decided to make it kind of a mixture between Twitter and Facebook to where this will operate kind of like the wall. If I'm a member and I'm logged in, I come to your profile, I can write on your wall. And we're going to have member profile pictures here next to whoever wrote that little blab. We'll have it still go to the home page and everything like it does now. So I decided we're going to do the Friends application first. That way, once we get to that point where we want to allow people to comment directly on another person's profile, then we'll make sure we get the friend system in first, because that's probably one of the most important parts of having a social network nowadays, is linking people together to where they can interact with each other. Okay, no more talk, now we program. First thing we're going to do is go into the profile.php page, and we're going to initialize a new variable up top with all the others here. Right under Blabber display list, let's just put a line break and put interaction box, just like I spelled it there. Make it empty. Now what we're going to do is echo out this interaction box variable down here in the profile. We want it to show up right here under the user's name. So if we're looking at the profile here, we want it to be under the user's name and above the blab box. So let's go here, make sure we highlight that block so we know where we are. Okay, right there. Let's put 2 line breaks, 2 break tags. Then let's go to top PHP. If you're in Dreamweaver, it makes it nice and easy. You just click echo, and then you put in your variable. We want the interaction box to echo out right there. Then we want 2 more line breaks after that. Let's get rid of that one there. So there's 2 line breaks surrounding it, above it and below it, the interaction box. So that way when it does show up there, it won't be scrunched up against other content. I'm going to get rid of these quotes because we don't really need them on those variables there. We're echoing out. The person last name, that can stay like that. And these include once. I'm just going to wrap those in quotes because that's how people are used to seeing that. Or parentheses rather. Okay, so now the last thing we need is to make the logic to make this interaction box display the correct data, depending on whether there's going to be 3 variations to that, how it displays. Say if I'm logged in and I'm looking at my own profile, we needed to render one set of data. If I am logged in and I'm looking at another member's profile, I needed to show interaction links to where I can interact with that member. If I'm a visitor that's not logged in at all, I'm just some random person who's not a member, not logged in, then I want to see links to say sign up or log in to interact with Adam Corey or whatever. So there's going to be those 3 differences, and we're going to look at the logic for that right now. So we'll put it into profile.php somewhere near the top here. Let's say let's put it at the bottom actually. The very last. Let's put another PHP block, and I'm going to add some code. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain this code real well for you. Actually, I don't need that PHP block because it had one already. So here's the code that I just popped into place, and it's right above the doc type. You see that? Now, if there happens to be an if condition in here that we're already doing above it, maybe here, we will combine the 2 later on. But it really won't be important right now just for testing, because this will work all by itself standalone. And I'm going to explain it to you right now what it all does. Now I've commented it out really well, but I'll still explain it anyway. But once you download the source code, you'll see that there are code comments in there that will help guide you through what the code is doing when you want to change things. Okay, so first thing it says is evaluate what content to place in the member interaction box. So that's what this code does. These are if and else condition statements to evaluate what data to display according to who is looking at the current profile. So the first condition is if is set the session ID variable and the session ID is not equal to this member's ID that the profile is showing data of, we render out the add as friend link, because it would be this scenario. Say I'm here and I go home and I look at Luigi. Right there under Luigi's name we want to show add as friend. So that's what that one does. The next if condition, if this one doesn't match, this code will run here. It'll check to see if it is set session ID variable and the session ID variable is equal to this member's profile who we're showing data of. That means the person who's logged in matches the person's profile that's being viewed. In that case, we show that person other members will see links to interact with you here, because that is the profile owner who is logged in looking at their own profile. Else, we can just throw an else in there. We don't have to put a condition for it. We're going to show sign up or log in to interact with whoever's name that profile happens to belong to. So you give a link to the register form and a link to the login page. Now let's put this online and show you what it looks like. Profile.php, Control S, I saved it. I've got everything in place. I'm echoing out interaction box where I need to. Okay, let's try it. I'm going to FTP it up and give it a test. Okay, now here I am still on Luigi's profile. Now if I refresh, I just FTP'd the new version of the profile page up. Now if I refresh, I should see a button here that says add as friend. And there it is, because I'm logged in looking at another person's profile. Now let me go to my profile and see what it says. See? Other members will see links to interact with you here. because I am logged in and viewing my own profile, so that's what I'm supposed to be shown. Now, if I wasn't logged in, it would say sign up or log in to interact with Adam Corey. That's what it would say right there to somebody who is just a random person viewing your website, your members, and they're not logged in as a member. So there you can see those are the three conditions set out by this code that we just placed in here, just a few lines. And actually that little bit of logic will help you with a lot of other things that you want to program into your profiles. Okay, this is where the jQuery is going to come in. What we want to happen is when we click the Add as Friend button, we want to make sure that a little magic window pops up right here that will make space for itself using jQuery. We'll slide this whole thing down, and you can have a question in there saying, are you sure you'd like to add Sean as your friend? Something to that effect, with a little yes or no link there. Now, when that yes or no link is clicked, or we can have a cancel button too, that'll close the little window up. Okay, what we're going to do is add some CSS to make sure that when we add more links here, more interaction links, that each one looks like a button. And we might use the same kind of styling as in the header buttons there. I'm not sure. But if we were to put another link next to this one right now, it would be in that same gray box with that link. But we want them all to be different, so we're going to put a little bit CSS in, the way it styles up each link to be its own little button. So we'll go into the code, profile.php, where the CSS is. We're going to add it right here under that info body class. This is the interaction links class. I'm going to show you how I'm going to utilize that in 1 second. And you can check out all of the style definitions set up inside of it. One is for the link, the A tag, and one is for the A tag hover state. When the mouse hovers over it, it gets this styling. When the mouse is not on it, it has this default styling. Alright. Now, when people are logged in, they're a logged in member viewing another member's profile. That's this section here. We're going to remove that add friend link, and we're going to replace it with these two links. So now I have two anchor tags, and each one has a location set of £. And what that does, if you use that with onClick equals return false, what that does is when somebody clicks that button, it'll make it fire off the JavaScript function that you want on mouse down. So you can see here on mouse down, I'm using a JavaScript function, or I'm firing off, I'm executing a JavaScript function called toggle interact containers, which I'm going to lay that JavaScript function into the page in just a second. So when this gets clicked, this won't, the £, won't show in the URL address, and it won't move the page at all, because we're assigning on click, on the click event, return false. On mouse down event fires off the JavaScript function that we want to happen when that button's clicked. So we don't want navigation to happen, but we do want that button to control a JavaScript function that's going to slide this add friend element down into view. And we also we're throwing in the message button now early, even though we don't have a private messaging system built into this web intersect yet. When we're throwing that button in ready, just to get ready. Okay, now we're going to go down into the HTML and add two divs. Let's put them right there. Alright, let's check these out now. You see I just put in two div containers, and one is ID of add friend, the other has an ID of private message. You can see they both have a class of interact containers. So to make sure those two containers are not visible by default, if we go into the design view, we'll see those containers here. But we want to add some CSS to make sure they do not get displayed by default, they're hidden. when the viewer comes to the page. So let's add that CSS. So you can see I have display none. That will make it not show when the user comes to the page, and only when they click those little links will the containers show, and we're using jQuery to accomplish that. And now we have some styling also for those containers. Give them a little padding, border, and a background color. So the last thing we need to wrap this all up, making those containers come up and down, is a JavaScript function that's going to be used for toggling the interaction containers. And we can put that right under the CSS, or you can put it on top of all your CSS above your style tag, but I'm going to put it under my style tag just for now. And you can see there's toggle interact containers function right there. And here, remember in those two links for add friend and private message, where toggle interact containers function is executed with these IDs targeted for those containers. So we're targeting that container, add friend container. Remember I added these two containers down here? There's add friend container. This one has an ID of private message. We're toggling those. And those, since they have the interact containers class, both of them have the interact containers class, they are hidden by default with this line of CSS, and only get shown when the person clicks one of these two links. That's how jQuery toggling works, and we're not to the point to where we're going to discuss the Ajax functionality just yet. That will probably be in the next part, where we'll communicate with the server. Since we have these links, is make sure this class gets put on this container here. So we can just remove all of this style stuff, and let's put div class equals interaction links div, and that should do it. All of the links inside of that, both of these links will be their own little buttons now. Okie dokie. Now we're going to test it out. Okay, I FTP'd the new version of the file, and it looks great. It's got a nice bright green rollover effect on each of those links, and if I clicked add as friend, it shows me that hidden container. And in that hidden container we're going to put maybe a question to say, are you sure you want to add Sean as friend? Yes, a little link for yes and no, and maybe the cancel button so they can close this window back up. But if they hit this add as friend button again, you see it makes that window disappear. It hides it. And say I have add as friend open and I hit message, it takes over that space, the private message container. And they just go like that. So it's pretty slick functionality. Alright, now let me explain this function really quick, just in case you guys aren't real familiar with how jQuery works. When the item is hidden, well, basically let's look at the link first. In the link we're using a function called toggle interact containers. So each time this link for add friend is pressed, it's going to either raise or lower that, or show that window. It's going to toggle it basically. And this one uses the same function. And since we're sending one argument through the function of the ID for the element that we want to toggle, being divs in this case, then that gets sent as this little X. So what happens is when that gets pressed, this little X it holds the value of that container, whether it be the add as friend container or the private message container. This little X holds that value. So we're asking here if we're evaluating if the container, which could be the private message container or the add as friend container, is hidden, then we're going to slide it down. Slide it down shows it. It brings it into view. Else, if it's not hidden, then we hide it. That means it's showing. So if we want the toggle effect to happen, we have to either show or hide, depending on whether the window itself is showing at the time when the button's pressed or not. Okay? And at the bottom, we have to hide all interaction containers at the very last line inside of the function. I had to throw that in there to get them to cooperate correctly. And that's how that works. So we'll seal this one up right here, and we'll continue in part 2, where we're going to actually get into the jQuery Ajax functionality, where when they try to request friend, we're going to talk to the server, the database is going to get checked, and all that good stuff. Everybody's friends list is going to get checked, and things like that. Okay, so stay tuned for part 3 of creating your own custom friend system for your social networks or custom communities you have going.